What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Across the Board, sponsored by MoneyBall Metrics. You have your normal two hosts here, Alpha Dog Bets with JD from Line Movers, and you already know who's below us. We have our resident Thursday guest, Jammer Bets, who's been coming on, giving the winners, and we're pumped to have you back per usual. How are you today, Jammer?
I'm doing well, man. Super excited. MLB playoffs. We got more NFL, some great college matchups this week, man. Doesn't get much better.
We have some great action to dive into. I'm very excited that we have an extra football or extra MLB game today. It was looking like it was going to be no MLB, but we still get to cover an MLB game today. Everyone out there, if you tuned into the show yesterday, then you are excited to be here today because we went 9-0 on our best bets yesterday. I personally swept the entire board. JD, I believe you went 4-0 yourself. And we all swept, and it was a perfect show. So we're looking to do that yet again. Let's go over the comments. We have a bunch of people here early. We appreciate every single one of you. Bill is here in our YouTube. Guys, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, make sure you check it out. There's a lot of content on the YouTube. There will be exclusive content coming for the YouTube as well. So you're not going to want to miss any of that. It's free to subscribe. Get on YouTube. Come subscribe. And Bill, we appreciate you tuning in from the YouTube. Nick is here per usual. Happy Thursday. 2 days till Nick's wedding. Wow. Happy early wedding, brother. 1 day till punishment. Yes. If you guys watch our Friday shows, you do know that me and JD have to quack like a duck tomorrow or a chicken, and whatever quacks, we have to do it. So we will be doing that tomorrow. And Romance Ray is here saying, let's cash. We are here to help you get some winners, Ray. Fellas, we have a beautiful 5-game slate. You ready to dive into the first game we're breaking down?
Let's do it.
Biggest game of the weekend, biggest game of the year. Everybody knows I'm a huge Rutgers fan myself, but it actually is being called by some the biggest game of the week. Rutgers Scarlet Knights come into this one visiting Nebraska at a 4-0 record. They are 1-0 in the Big Ten. On the other side, Nebraska 4-1. They are 1-1 in the Big Ten. Nebraska has had a great year. They've only stumbled playing Illinois at home. Illinois is a great team, so you can't really hold them to that. But we have a good matchup here. Rutgers quarterback Ethan Kaliak-Manis has been fantastic. He's been the new transfer from Minnesota. He's coming in with 7 touchdowns to only 1 interception. On the other side, we all know Dylan Raiola, mini Patrick Mahomes. He has 9 touchdowns on the year and 2 interceptions. Let's start with Jammer. Jammer, what do you think about this Rutgers-Nebraska game?
Hey, man, I hate to do this, but you're the Rutgers guy. I'd love to just give you a little flip and just send it right back up to you.
Wow, we're starting with me and Rutgers. Well, I'll be honest, guys. I do think Rutgers is going to compete in this game. I do think 7 points is a lot. And Rutgers did return 10 of 11 starting defenders from last year. This team under Greg Schiano, whenever he's been there, either the early 2000s or in his second tenure here with Rutgers now, has done a fantastic job on defense. This team prioritizes defense more than any team in the Big Ten, and that's how they make their money. They also have a really good running back in Kyle Monangai. He on the year has 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. And I do think the game script for this game is that Rutgers is going to need to blitz all night long. We all saw in the Illinois game what happened to Dylan Raiola. If you're able to blitz him and get some pressure, he's a completely different quarterback. So I think Rutgers is going to be able to do that. I'm not just saying this because I am a Rutgers fan. I have not bet a single Rutgers game all season, even though they are 4-0. I don't usually like to bet my own teams, but in this game, I do think 7 points is just too much for this Rutgers team. Their offense has been very good as well. Damir Miller has been the big transfer from Monmouth. He's the all-time leading receiver in small school. I believe it's NCAA, the second division, whatever it is. He's the all-time leading receiver and has stepped into Rutgers and done a fantastic job. So, Jammer, you asked me to go first. I'm telling you right now, I think Rutgers keeps this within 7, and they may win the game. They may win the game. I may look like an idiot when we come back here on Monday and talk about it, but I think Rutgers has a great chance. Jammer, now we're going back to you. What do you think about this one?
See, man, I'm kind of on the same page as you. I think it's all about controlling that line of scrimmage, and, man, Rutgers knows how to run the ball, man. If they can control time of possession, limit the amount of damage that Dylan Raiola can do. I mean, you can see at the total, 40.5 in this game. It's not going to be a high-scoring, Patrick Mahomes in college type of game. We're going to see who can control the line of scrimmage, who can limit the turnovers. And I personally just think that +7 is a little too much for these guys. They got a tough schedule coming up. They got a couple Big Ten matchups coming up with Wisconsin, UCLA, and USC. They got to travel out to the West Coast. I think this is a big game for Rutgers right now. And if they can keep this run going, they're on 5-0. They want to get in that top 25. I don't know if they can pull off the win, but if they can keep it close against Nebraska, who knows? I think I do like them +7. That total's a little too low for me to take the under. That's where I would lean, but Unofficially under 40.5, but I do like that +7 for Rutgers.
Love it. So Jammer's play of the week is Rutgers money line. You can even take the alt spread at -17. We appreciate that information, Jammer. JD, what do you think about this showdown?
Just actually like y'all said, when I first looked at this game, the Rutgers side, the +7, it just kind of like stuck out. I was kind of like, wow, okay. That just seemed like the easy play there. And then I just started to dig in more and more. And last week they really should have lost. They actually really should have. And just like Jammer said, they definitely can run the ball, but they can't stop the damn run though. That's actually where the problem this game, I believe, is actually going to be. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of wind actually in this game. So they're going to be running the ball quite a bit. And I think that is why the total is actually so low. To me, this is honestly a really tough game. I have this priced at Nebraska at -6.2. So I'm almost exactly on there. These are two teams that I honestly do not really bet on. And to me, like I said, the line is just so close. So for me, this one is going to be a pass.
Should I say my line, JD? I haven't said it in a while.
Go ahead.
Sometimes, guys, the best bet you can make on a game is no play. I understand why. This one I do think is going to be a pretty sharp line. However, like you said, I do think it's going to be a very run-dominant game, and to me, that is going to favor Rutgers. I know they struggled against Washington last week, but Rutgers was able to create a lot of turnovers, and that was the difference in the game. So I do think we could see a similar game script here. So I definitely understand what you mean there. Let's keep it moving, fellas, to the second game we have on the slate, which is going to be the Florida Bowl. We have UCF taking on the Florida Gators. UCF is coming in 3-1. The Gators are coming in 2-2. UCF was a big favorite last week. I believe it was 13.5 or 14.5 points. They got shellacked. That's the nicest way I can put it. They got smacked around by Colorado. They lost 48-21. Well, on the other side, Florida had a very impressive win. They were home against Mississippi State, and they did beat them 45-28. Jammer, neither of these teams I'm a fan of, so we're going to have to go to you. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, I can't just send it right back up to you, huh? All right. So, I mean, this isn't just a game. It's a battle for the Gators season, and head coach Napier knows it. During his media availability this week, he was more upbeat than usual about Florida's chances after their bye week, and he believes that they made significant strides and had some of their best practices of the year. But, I mean, let's be real here, man. Florida has their work cut out for them, especially when it comes to defending the run. UCF ranks second in the nation in rushing offense with over 326 yards per game on the ground. Also, 3 rushing touchdowns per game. So we're going to need to see Florida's defense to be aggressive at the line of scrimmage. They can't just afford to sit back and let UCF get in their comfort zone and let KJ Jefferson win it. They're going to have to put some pressure on him, make him win it with his arm. They can't just be running the ball all over him. So if they can put him in an uncomfortable spot, he's not the most pocket present kind of guy. So if they can get him on the back of his feet, turning the ball over or really not knowing what to do with the ball, they can get some big turnovers, hopefully. Now flipping to the offensive side for the ball of Florida, it's where things get kind of interesting. You don't usually see a team running 2 quarterbacks like Florida does with Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. I think that Florida has a chance to exploit a weakness on UCF's defense, and that is that they get no pressure. They only have 3 sacks on the season, which is dead last in the FBS. So, I mean, if they can keep their quarterbacks, keep that energy up with both the quarterbacks coming in and out, they can have UCF on the back of their heels right there. I think that we will see a Florida Gators team win this game, though. I do like them at home, off the bye week. You got to listen to the coach whenever he says that he's been having some of the best practices of the year. I think he's very excited about this Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway at the helm. Give me Florida -2.5.
I'm on the opposite side as you. I do think UCF is the better complete team here. I think because of the game last week, we're getting the line that we're getting. You currently get the money line at a -130. But I think that game was not reflective of how this UCF team is. I think They let the Colorado game just get to them. They did not look right the entire first half. They had it absolutely taken to them. And I don't think we're going to see the same game script in this one. I do think we are going to see KJ Jefferson have a much better performance. I think we're going to see a lot of touchdowns from this UCF offense. And it's crazy how high this total is. The total is currently at 61.5. So the books are expecting a lot of points here. So they are thinking that both offenses will have success. I think UCF's offense will have a little bit more success and be able to get it done. Give me UCF on the money line at -130. Quickly, before we go to JD, we have a couple comments in the chat. I will go over them later. YM, I see a bunch of questions about the Thursday night football game. We are covering that later in the show. So when we do cover the NFL game, we'll go over the parlay you put in the chat. I do see it there. We will get to it, I promise. JD, what do you like in UCF Florida?
You know, I like a lot of actually what both of y'all said. But to kind of like start back over here, as far as actually UCF, they are coming off a very, very poor game. And saying that during this week so far, they've been bet hard. I mean, they have been steamed. Yep. They actually started out as I believe a +2 dog, and now they're a 2.5 point favorite. Yep. For me, a good question here is that people backing UCF for a bounce back, or is actually that a pure Florida fade? And that's something I'm not really sure about. Yeah,
good question.
I'm actually not really sure. I would assume it's more of a Florida fade. But with them coming off of their bye week, I am expecting them to be right for this game, especially on the offensive side. Just actually like Jammer said, I am expecting them to put up points. But just like you said, Alpha, I am expecting UCF to also put up points. This is their bounce back game. They actually should be able to run the ball fine here. To me, this is definitely an actual overplay. The UCF overs, we've actually been backing those so far this year. They are 4-0 so far in the season. Florida overs are actually 3-1. The model, it has this at 64.7 points. So with the over set at 61, I'm going to happily take that. But my best bet in this game is that a Florida team will win.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. A Florida team definitely will win. And if I were to pick a total here, I definitely agree with you. I think this will go over the 61.5. Yeah. Let's keep it rolling, fellas, to one of my favorite games of the week, which is going to be the Tennessee-Arkansas game. We all know what Tennessee has done. I'm not going to try and pronounce Nico's last name either. I know, Jammer, you were very much looking forward to that. I'm not going to do it, though, so I apologize. But he's been fantastic. This Tennessee defense has also been fantastic. The most points they've allowed this year is 15 points in a game. They've been steaming everybody. I know they've had a lot of big spreads, but they've been able to cover the big spread. So this Tennessee team has done a good job. On the other side, Arkansas is coming in 3-2. They're 1-1 in conference, and they did just lose versus Texas A&M at home last week. JD, we haven't started with you yet. With the loss of Arkansas at A&M last week, does that make you more inclined to bet Tennessee, especially with how well they've done? What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, like, they've been playing great. We've been on them a few times this season, and actually like they've like cashed us out big actually each time.
Every single time.
Yeah. So it's hard to go like against them. As far as the point spread here, I think it's lined well. It actually is a natural road game. As far as Tennessee defense, it has looked great. But as the season goes on and they play a few of these different types of teams, I think the defense is not going to look quite as good. So Tennessee overs, that's something that I'm going to be looking at. Not necessarily what I'm playing in this certain game here. But the model does like the actual over. But as far as Tennessee, I'm going to stick to them, and I'm going to look at their team total over. Arkansas on defense, there's just not much there. And the way that their secondary is, Tennessee should have a great day. And actually, like, if they can run the ball here whatsoever, that's going to really open things up, and this could get ugly. They could put up a lot of points here. I think the team total is set way too low here. You can get a FanDuel right now at 35.5, and actually minus 106. So I am absolutely loving that.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a ton of points by Tennessee as well. And when we look at how these teams have both done against the spread this year, it's actually quite alarming how good both teams have been. We all know Tennessee is 4-0 against the spread. Their average victory is by 21.5 points, so they're clearly covering every game. But Arkansas's 4-1. So they've covered it 80% themselves. So it's not like Tennessee's going up against a slouch team that has not overperformed their expectation. If they're covered at 80%, that means 4 out of 5 games, they've beaten the expectation of what they're going to do. So they've been very good as well. Now, all that being said, how can I get off the Tennessee train? They've done us right every single week. They continue to get it done. And each week they have looked better and better. I think we continue to see that. JD, I hope you hit that team total over 35.5, because if you do, I'll be very happy with my Tennessee minus 13.5, because I do think this is going to be a lot of points on the Tennessee side. I'm not touching the total here. I did originally look at the over, but I do think that Arkansas will turn the ball over a couple times. If they turn it over a couple times, Tennessee knows what to do with those turnovers. They're great at capitalizing on mistakes, and I think we'll see a game where Tennessee capitalizes on a few mistakes and wins this by at least 20 points. Give me Tennessee minus 13.5. I'll let it out early. It's definitely a best bet from me. Jammer, over to you. What do you got?
I'm leaning the same way you guys are, but I'm going to be attacking a little bit differently. I mean, I don't really have to say much about Tennessee's offense. You know, Nico's been playing well, completing 69% of his passes, 8 touchdowns, only 2 picks. He's on the fringe conversation for Heisman. You know, you got the Vols who are competing for that college football playoff. So, I mean, like, I'll do a little bit of talking about Arkansas. Their quarterback, Taylor Green, he's been inconsistent on the season, only completing 54% of his passes and taking 12 sacks. Sure, he's explosive, and Bobby Petrino is calling the plays, but it's the quarterback's decision-making that's really hurting him. He's made 8 big-time throws, but he also has 8 turnover-worthy plays. You know, you combine that with an offensive line that's allowed 33 tackles for loss, which is one of the worst in the country. I can see why it could be hard for Arkansas to put up some points in this game. Tennessee's defense coming off a bye, and they've been thriving against weak offensive lines, racking up 31 tackles for losses in just 4 games. I think that we will see a lower scoring game, like you guys said, but I do think that it's going to come from Arkansas not putting up the points.
Yep.
So I'm leaning the same way that you guys are. I think that Tennessee will cover. I think we'll see an under. If you guys want to ride JD's team total over on Tennessee, you can take that, or you can just take the under in the game and just bank on their defense showing up. I think Tennessee's got bigger SEC matchups on their mind, and that you know, they'll get their lead and they'll kind of take the foot off the gas.
I like that. I do think we see Tennessee run away with it too. So we're all basically on the same side here. Let's see Tennessee win this game 49-0. We are all very happy with that result. Fellas, that's going to wrap up our college football slate, but we are moving in to a slate that JD we've been doing pretty well on. So I'm excited to dive into this one. We're going to the MLB Mets versus Braves game. Let's break down the pitching matchup here, fellas. Pitching for the Mets, Jose Quintana. Let me tell you something. If I'm a Mets fan, I'm not excited knowing that my season on the line is with Jose Quintana on the bump. On the other side, the Brewers are pitching Tobias Myers. We're going to go to you, Jammer. What do you think about this game? Decent pitching matchup on one side, at least. Do you think that the Mets have enough to continue this hot run as probably the best team in the second half of the season? Or do you think the Brewers, who have owned this Mets team over the last 2 years, take them out?
So, man, you got to think that all the momentum right now is with the Brewers. You know, they got the home field advantage. They shut down the Mets after the second inning last night, came back to win that game, to, you know, give us a game to talk about today. You know, for that, we're very thankful.
Absolutely.
But you were talking about Quintana, man. Like, you think that the Mets would be a little upset that he's on there, but he has had a September to remember. 4 games, an ERA of 0.72. But, I mean, if you look at some of the teams that he was playing against,
Exactly.
not really the best. So, you know, I think that could be a little misleading there. I'm usually on the fade Quintana train, and I think that I'm going to hop back on that here for this big game in the playoffs. You know, he has some playoff experience, but I just think that his little September to remember is just going to be a thing of the past, and that not that he'll get rocked today, but I do think that it's a tough test on the road, especially with all the pressure of winning the first game, having the lead throughout majority of game 2, blown it in the 8th inning. I think we'll see a Frank the Tank a little blow up today at Barstool. Give me the Brewers on the money line, minus 130.
I've played the same bet in this series for the first 2 games, and I have to continue riding it because I think we're going to continue to see runs here. This is definitely the worst pitching matchup that we've seen so far. The one thing that scares me, even though Quintana did have a September to remember, as Jammer said, his last start in September was against this Brewers team where the Mets did lose 6-0. He only went 4 1/3 inning, giving up 5 hits, 2 walks, and 2 earned runs. He did have 9 strikeouts that game, but he did get hit pretty hard while he was in there and did not have a long start. Another thing I think that's going to happen in this game is we're going to see a very quick trigger for both starting pitchers. We could see the bullpen enter this game very early. It's a do-or-die scenario. Both bullpens are pretty taxed. The Mets did have that doubleheader play-in on Monday. They've played every day since, and they've been having to use their bullpen pretty substantially. Same thing with the Brewers. They've also had to use most of their good bullpen arms. So you're talking about 2 teams that are not pitching their best starters, 2 teams that are hitting the ball pretty well right now, and 2 teams that have tired bullpens. To me, that is a recipe for a clear over. The total, I think, should have been a full run higher. They've kept it at 7.5, or it's been the last 2 games, and that's exactly what we are going to be playing. Over 7.5, and you can currently get that at plus 100. JD, I'm hoping you're on the same side as me because when we have been the last couple of days, it's gone well for the both of us. So please tell me you're on the over. What are you looking at?
And the over to me, in actually like a lot of ways, it definitely makes a lot of sense. But to me, one of the things like you just said, these starters, if this was a regular game, I mean, yeah, the over would actually definitely be a play. With this do-or-die game, they are going to have a extra short leash. Yep. And these teams are going to be bringing in anybody, everybody, and actually not just regular bullpen arms. I mean, actually, like you may see like regular guys actually out there, starters in this game. So because of that, as far as the over, it's just so hard for me to play that. The model does actually like it still, but like I said, it's so tough just because we don't know who we're going to actually see here. I feel like the past actually 2 days, my reads have been on, and I felt strongly about those reads. This one, I just cannot get one on. I will say the Mets have been on base. They have been on base a lot. They have, over the past 2 games, they have 15 hits, and actually they have 9 walks. With actually runners in like scoring position, though, they have not done well, and that's what has been their actual problem.
Absolutely.
So far, but they are getting guys on. Whereas the Brewers have gotten some guys on, but actually like nowhere near that actually much. To me, it's definitely not going to be a play for me. But getting the Mets at the underdog price, like I feel this is more of a coin flip game. So if you're going to give me them as like a dog, I would have to lean actually that way. But it's just not enough for actually me to actually personally bet it.
Don't worry, guys. I won't torture you with saying the same line again, but y'all all know what I'm thinking right now if you watch this show. So, JD, I understand why you'd want to lay off this game for now, but there may be a play from JD later. So make sure you guys are staying tuned to the MoneyBall Metrics account and to JD's account on Twitter, which is Line Movers. Make sure you're tuned into that. You may get a late free play from him later today. Fellas, we're going to the marquee matchup of the night, the Thursday night football game between the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Atlanta Falcons. Bucks are coming in 3-1. They are 1-0 on the road against a Falcons team that is 2-2 on the year, but they are 1-2 at home. They've only played 4 games, but 3 of them being home already. This will be the 4th. It's a big game for them because they are running out of home games that they may need later in the season. Jammer, let's go over to you. What do you like in the Thursday night football game?
Man, we got a classic NFC South showdown. First of the season for Tampa, and this is the 2nd week in a row that Atlanta will have a NFC South opponent, as they took down the Saints last week by way of New Jersey's finest, Younghoe Koo. Got a little help from the defense and special teams as well. But as we know, man, these matchups are far from the shootouts we used to see between, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Jameis Winston, Mike Evans. Now we're starting to see more defensive matchups with an emphasis on controlling the time of possession, which we see, with the new head coach signings for both these teams, with Todd Bowles and Raheem Morris, who were both successful defensive coordinators before they got these head coaching jobs. For me, I just think it's going to come down to the quarterback play. I think Kirk Cousins has played exactly how anyone would expect a mid-30s quarterback to play, coming back from an Achilles injury. And I just don't see it getting easier for him tonight versus a tough Tampa Bay defense who blitzes just about as much as any team in the league. I think that's going to lead to a lot of quick passes, runs, and if the run game's working, they can add in some play action. Something that they haven't been able to add to their repertoire this year is they've had some of the lowest play action percentage in the league. I just think Baker Mayfield is just playing out of his mind right now, and he's kind of revitalized that career, and he's motivated to play. And first NFC South matchup for him on the road in Atlanta. I do think this is going to be a low-scoring game, which is why I have a strong lean to the under. Is it still sitting at 44? It might be dropping down to 43.5. Like
43.5 now. Yep.
We're seeing 43.5 now. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I got like a 20-14 type game. Could come down to field goals, and if it does, got to go with Younghoe Koo there. But for me, I think I'm rolling with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight on the money line. Strong lean to the under, and there's a couple props on the Buccaneers that I like. On these Thursday games, you definitely see a lot of the backup running back. I don't know if you can technically say Bucky Irving's a backup running back. He's been kind of taking the snaps from Rachaad White. It's went from a strong percentage from Rachaad White in the first 3 weeks, but then as we've seen, Bucky Irving's been running the ball well with over 5 yards per carry. He hasn't been involved in the passing game as much, but I don't know if they'll have to see that tonight if the Buccaneers take the lead and they can just control that time of possession. So I do like Bucky Irving's rushing over 44.5. And that Mike Evans line was screaming at me, but whenever you look at his matchups versus AJ Terrell, he shuts him down. And that 59.5 for Mike Evans was screaming at me all week, but I just can't pull the trigger on him. So I'm going to be going with Chris Godwin. I think that we'll see a lot of success in the slot today. Over 68.5 for Chris Godwin. So I like his receiving yards and Bucky Irving's rushing.
I love that. Great segue into what I'm going into, guys. And when you take a look at how these teams have performed this year, Tampa Bay is 3-1 against the spread. They've done a fantastic job. While on the other side, Atlanta is 1-3. They are bottom 5 in the NFL at covering games. I am all over the Bucs money line here. I do think the Bucs are able to get it done. They are the better all-around team than the Atlanta Falcons. I know they're the road team here, and it's tough to bet a road team on a short week going into Atlanta in a divisional game, but we're doing it. I do think Baker Mayfield is good enough. He doesn't need as much prep as a lot of younger guys who don't have the experience that he has. I think he will be fine, and I'm with you 8,000%, not 1,000%, 8,000% that it's a huge Godwin night. I did one of my article plays earlier this week, and my big play for this game is Godwin over 68.5 receiving yards. I also played him to score a touchdown at plus 170. I think we're going to see a huge Godwin game. This team will strategize to take Mike Evans out of the game, which will lead those crossing routes for Chris Godwin over the middle, which he's done so well this year. He is currently, let me pull up his stats here. I believe he's second or third in the NFL in receiving yards. He's seventh. I apologize. He's seventh in the league in receiving yards. He's third in the league in receptions, and he's tied for third in the league with 3 touchdowns this year. So he has been the go-to guy. That's exactly what I think we're going to see is going to be a big Godwin game. JD, what do you expect out of this game? After you do, we are going to go back to YM's comment about his parlay. I have not forgot about you.
Yeah, y'all made some really good points here. To me, this is a really tough game. Right off the bat, I would have to lean Bucks. That's the only side that I could lean to. As far as my numbers, though, they have the Falcons here favored by 1.7, so that's almost exactly on. I have a total of 43.2, which actually, again, is almost exactly on.
Right on the dot.
So, to me, as far as numbers-wise, there is no edge for me there. As far as all the points that y'all made, though, I actually definitely like those like are the right points. And like, I really think the Bucks is the side here. The price for me is just not quite enough to actually jump in. I will say, Alpha, me and you always talk all the time on Thursday nights about how we always look at the home team. But since I was looking at the Bucks here, I did actually go back and do a little trend and look at some numbers here. And we've been kind of wrong, man. Since actually 2019, Thursday night home teams are actually against the spread are only 39 and 52.
Wow.
That's surprising.
Thursday night games used to not be like that. Used to be home teams. They were just the side to go with, but over the past few years, that's actually not been the actual case here. So yeah, for me on side total, I'm sorry guys, but I actually just like don't have anything here. I will say Chris Godwin, as far as his receptions and reception yards, I do like that, but I would take the Mike Evans touchdown. I do like that more compared to the Godwin. As long as you can get that at least anything. Let me see what my break even is on that.
I got it on the screen right now at plus 155.
That's a great price. Yeah, break even for me is at plus 120. So yeah,
Good value.
So actually, yeah, that is a great price.
JD agrees with Joe. Joe, good find there. We have a couple other comments. Footy Chancellor is asking where Godwin went to college. We're not answering any questions you have after you came in here and gave us Bayern Munich money line yesterday, and they lost by 8,000 at the minus 150. So keep your comments to yourself over there. Nick, great question. Yes, that is coming soon. We have been in the talks of it. We are in the works of already getting that done. So that absolutely is coming in the near future. And guys, before we get to that phone call, we are going to go over the YM parlay, which I'm a little confused. Let me go through it here. There's a lot to it. Falcons money line, Bijan over 59.5. I'm assuming that's Bijan's rushing because his rushing and receiving is around 95.5. Plus Bijan anytime touchdown. Alternate under of 49.5. I do like the alternate under. It's a plus 405. I don't mind that parlay. I'm going to be completely honest. I said earlier I did a props article. I have done 3 props on this game. One of the props that I'm heavily on is going to be Bijan Robinson under 95.5 rushing and receiving. So I'm not huge on Bijan's over 59.5 rushing. I do like the under there. But every other leg of this parlay, besides the Falcons, I like. You know that we all like the Bucks here. So those first 2, we're a little iffy on. The last 2, I definitely can see hitting. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean,
I'm sorry, YM. I am sorry we are on the Bucks, YM. This is his parlay.
So I spoke on it earlier. I think we're going to see a lot of rushing from Bijan. You got to counter that blitz somehow from the Buccaneers. I like the rushing. Just can't get behind the Falcons. I could see how you'd want to back the home team, though.
JD, thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to get back to it. He had the Falcons, right?
Yep.
Falcons, yep.
Hold on, do I not have it on the screen? Let me get it back on the
rushing, Bijan anytime touchdown, and then that all.
As far as the Falcons, we obviously don't like that. The Bijan props, yeah, I should do like those. The under makes sense. Like I said, I have that at 43. So yeah, just the Falcons is really the only part that I'm just really not sure on there.
I respect it. And just to put some context out there, Bijan Robinson's last 2 games rushing 28 yards on 7 carries on Sunday. The game against the Chiefs the week before, he had 16 carries for 31 yards. He's averaging over those 2 games about 2 yards per carry. His totals are down. The offensive line of the Falcons has severely let them down in the run game. Just to throw that out there, that's my thinking and process of why I'm not taking the over on Bijan.
And they're and I believe their center is out tonight, right?
Correct. Yep, that's another reason. So excuse me. Their line is pretty injured and they have not held up so far. So that is one of the reasons I love that under. And that's one of the reasons I took the rushing and receiving under of 95.5. So if he runs for 75 yards and has no receiving yards, we'll both be happy. So let's hope for that. Fellas, we have one last thing to do on this show, and that's go over our best bets. Jammer, how many do you have for the people? Do you have 1? Do you have 2? Do you have 3? Do you have 14? What do you got?
So I'm going to go 3. I mean, just spoke on them. We're going Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Why don't you
money
put the
line.
helmet on like JD does, dude? Much better. Much better.
Yeah. And then I didn't even speak on this, but Atlanta's missing their top tackling linebacker. So that was another reason why I was backing my second best bet, Bucky Irving, over 44.5 rushing. He's just
the
been
ghost is back. Sorry.
he's just been on fire, man. Rookie season, averaging over 5 yards a carry. Coach has already said he's going to implement him more into that offense. And I think that we've seen that in the last couple of weeks with the amount of snaps that he's been taking and sharing with Rachaad White. And then lastly, it took me all week to decide this, just to fade Mike Evans. He could have a huge game. He could score that touchdown like we spoke in the comments, but I don't know if he's going to get those 59.5 yards. I think that's a trap line. I'm going to be fully backing Chris Godwin, 68.5 receiving yards for him. I wish I could take his over 5.5 receptions because that's almost been automatic, but it's a little too juicy for me.
Super juicy.
Yeah, give me the
Agree
yards.
100%. I'll jump in here next, guys, then we'll go over to the main man of the show, JD. I got 3 for you boys. Tennessee minus 13.5. Absolutely love it. That's the only college football bet I'll give out today. Then we're going to the over 7.5, and that Mets Brewers decisive game 3 tonight. And Bucks money line. Let's get it, fellas. JD, what do you got?
Buddy just actually made me laugh there.
I put it on the screen. I put it on the screen. We had to have it up there.
Okay, let's get back on track here. I'm gonna go to some Saturday games.
Let's go.
Let's go to that Tennessee game. This is probably my favorite play of the week. Let's go Tennessee. Their team total over 35.5 at minus 106. Then let's go to that UCF and the Florida game. Love the over here. We can get that at 61 at actually minus 110.
There we go. And that's it for you?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, you know what that means? You know what that means? That's it for the show today, fellas. It's been fantastic. I appreciate everyone tuning in. We had amazing comments today. All of you guys in there. YM. Everyone but Footy in the comments. We appreciate every single one of you. Keep it up. We're always here to answer any questions. Jammer, and another amazing show from you. Fellas, we will be back tomorrow with Across the Board NFL edition. We'll be excited to dive in. We also have some MMA coming tomorrow. JD, as we always do, say goodbye to the people. Say something for them.
Sweep.
Let's sweep. Oh, the bottle pop is back. We're sweeping. We're getting it. We'll see you guys.